Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to touch on blood cultures and labeling, and then we're also going to talk about all the different collection supplies that are available to you in your departments. We're going to start with the butterflies. You love them, I love them, your patient loves them, but they are in scarce supply. So if you've worked in the last month, you've seen the Soul Millenniums. They're a little bit different from what we are used to. They have the little gray lure. Not sure if you can see it in the camera. Got it? Mm-hmm. Okay. You have a little gray lure that's attached and no hub. That is okay. You can still do Vacutainer collections with these, but you will have to use the blood culture collection device attached to your butterfly. Please let your ordering personnel know for your department if you are comfortable using these to do the Vacutainer method, because you will blow through them very, very quickly. You can also just take the lure off completely and attach it to a syringe and still pull with the syringe and collect the butterfly. Okay, so let's say for instance you get to your department for today and you have 0 butterflies on hand. You have nothing to collect with that you're used to. You still have other options. Your next available option is going to be straight sticking. You can use either a 21 gauge, which is what I have here in the green, or you can do a 23 gauge, which I have in the blue, and I know that your units also have the orange, the 25 gauge. I do not recommend 25 gauge in anything above the hand because of the bevel and the lure being so small. We don't want to hemolyze our samples. If you use it in the hand, that's totally fine. AC would not be the best option for that needle. Okay, so when you do attach your needle to your syringe, make sure again that whatever needle that you are using does have a safety device attached to it. I know that units have 18 gauge needles. Please don't use those for collection purposes. They do not have a safety device attached to it, and you would have to recap it, and then it's also way too big to be collecting blood with. Okay, so when you assemble your device, you're going to go to hold. You're going to hold with your thumb and your pointer finger, and you're going to squeeze it like you're trying to squeeze a button or squeeze a bean. Okay, I take my middle finger and I put it on the back of my pointer finger. Okay, and I use my other 2 fingers to help anchor. So we're going to pretend like my arm is the arm of a patient and my hand is going up towards their shoulder. Okay, this is the patient's hand. I am going to anchor down with my 2 fingers on the side. I'm going to put my middle finger and press it against the patient. If you notice, I can still move the needle around. I haven't stuck yet, so when I go to stick, I can now put pressure onto the patient to anchor down my syringe. So let me show you that on lovely Larry here. No hand Larry. We're going to pretend like he's got his tourniquet on, and we've already cleaned the site and we're ready to stick. Okay, so all you have to do is uncap your needle. Make sure you are bevel up. With this particular brand, you'll notice that the safety device is on the side, on the right side, right above my hand. If you're using Smith Medical, it'll be on the right. Okay, I'm going to use my non-dominant hand to anchor the patient, and I'm going to use my dominant hand to stick and to anchor the needle. I'm anchoring the patient, and I'm going to go in at a roughly 45-degree angle and into the vein. If this were a true patient, at this point I would be pushing my middle finger down and my other 2 fingers, my ring finger and my pinky finger, into the patient to anchor the needle in the syringe. Okay, we're gonna pretend like that's down. All right, so when we go to pull, you don't want to do this. Okay, you kind of see that the needle came out a little bit. The reason that we anchor so tough is because we don't want to pull the actual syringe and the needle out of the patient's arm. So you're going to pull back on your syringe, hold your pressure, and you want to pull at a slow, steady pace. Okay? If you get to a point where you see that your patient has either slowed down or stopped, you can do an adjustment. Either come back a little bit, that means that you went too far in during the process of pulling your plunger, or go in just a little bit. And if you start to see the blood start to flow again, then you can start pulling back on your syringe. Okay? If your patient is like Larry with these huge veins, you're not worried about it stopping, you're worried about it filling up too quickly. Please make sure that you take care to pay attention to pull your plunger at the rate that the blood is flowing if your patient flows very fast. When you get towards the end of the plunger, please pay attention so that your plunger doesn't come out of the syringe, which will happen if your patient is flowing quickly and you're pulling back on the syringe. Your plunger may come off, meaning blood is going to go everywhere. You're going to clean up your site, end your collection, apologize to your patient, and then you're going to go to the other side and try to collect over there. Okay? So we're going to end the collection as if we've finished up everything. I've got my gauze in hand. I'm gonna go ahead and remove and activate my safety device and put the gauze on. At this point, if you are not comfortable collecting with a syringe, that's okay. Have somebody come in the room with you. You'll hand it off to them and let them do the transfer for you while you handle your patient. If you can do your transfer yourself and do the whole thing yourself, that's totally fine too. It should take you about 2 seconds to wrap your patient up, and then you're gonna immediately go to your transfer. Okay, once you're done transferring, you have your tubes filled and labeled. Before you leave the room, go back to your patient, check the site, make sure that the pressure is adequate. If they're still bleeding, wrap them up again with Coban and let them sit, okay? During the transfer process, whether it's you or somebody helping you, what you don't want to see is this. So I've got my tube on here. I don't want to see this. This is not a good look. If you do it, you're going to hemolyze your sample, and all that hard work that you just did during your collection is gone, okay? So you'll have to recollect. All right, once you're finished with your transfer, make sure your tubes are labeled properly. Of course, this is the style that we want them labeled in, and then you would send them to the lab. Okay, and we're gonna move on from this one. If there's any questions, you can always reach out to me and let me know. My number is 4242, or email me at amandarusso@chrisshealth.com or .org, sorry.
So just to clarify, when they're doing the transfer, their tube should pull the blood in automatically. That's why we should not have to use a plunger, correct? Okay,
Correct.
Perfect.
If you do push down on the plunger, you just run too much of a risk of hemolyzing the sample, causing us to have to do this again. That is the end of the syringe method. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to Vacutainer method. My personal favorite. Vacutainer method is the quickest, easiest way to collect your patient. You don't have to go through the different transfer processes, and you don't have to use the butterfly, which you have to wait for it to go through the tubing, and it's usually a slower fill regardless of what gauge you use. Vacutainer collection, quick, easy, gets you out of the room. Okay, with the Vacutainer collection, I'm gonna go ahead and have you tie me up. The reason people shy away from it that aren't used to using it is because you can't get a flash at all. You are basically going in blind. You have to go solely off of your vein selection. And if you don't have good vein selection, it's not gonna work for you, okay? So I'm not sure how well you can see from the camera, but there is one vein poking out that you can see from a distance. It's going to be this one right here, okay? If I run my finger across it, you'll see it bounce back. In the center, what you cannot see, but you can feel, is a very, very, very large AC vein, okay? I'm gonna roll my finger across it as well. You won't see the bounce back, but you can feel it. If I were to pinch my vein, that's about how wide it is, okay? The purpose of rolling your finger across and feeling where it starts and where it ends, you can kind of see it a little bit, is to get the width of the vein. Once you get the depth and the width of the vein, you can decide what to use to collect. For this vein, because of how big it is, 21 gauge all the way. Doesn't matter what collection device you decide to use, I would go Vacutainer. But you say, hey, I know it's there, I can feel it, but I can't see it. So what happens when I take my tourniquet off and I clean, and then I go back and put my tourniquet on? Where do I stick? I can't touch it again, I've already cleaned it. Got something for you. So I usually have my phlebotomist and myself take the actual needle for the Vacutainer. Leave it capped, don't open anything. Find your vein and do a little poke. Just press on it. During this time, distract your patient. Talk to them. Ask them about breakfast. Ask them if they need anything. Ask them about a family member, if a family member's in the room, or they've been discussing children with you or something. Just long enough to where you get a little landmark, okay? So what you're gonna do once you get your landmark, you're gonna go ahead and pop your tourniquet. You're going to clean the site. Then you're gonna reapply your tourniquet, because remember, you can only have your tourniquet on for a minute. Reapply your tourniquet, make sure that your device is assembled, and then you're gonna stick. If you decide to stick with a Vacutainer, if you hit the landmark that you made, there is a 99% chance that you are going to get the blood. If you decide to use it for a straight stick, there is a 99% chance that you are going to get the blood, because you've already found the vein, you made a landmark to go to, and then you stuck in that same place. Your collection will be successful. Now for the Vacutainer, when you stick, remember, you do not get a flash. You won't know that you've hit it until you've actually put a tube on there and start to see it fill. But again, if you hit your landmark, 99% chance you're gonna get it, okay? And then of course, if you have any questions about this, again, my number is 606-4242, amanda.russo@christushealth.org. Okay, next I'm going to briefly touch on blood culture collection. Okay, so we've had a video about blood culture collection and labeling before. I'm going to run through it again here briefly, okay? Majority of the times when you do your blood culture collections, you're either starting an IV and you need to get basically a rainbow, so you get a set of blood cultures, or you can be pulling from the butterfly. It's going to be the easiest way to do a peripheral stick to get your blood culture collection, because you can do everything while it's still attached to the patient. There is no additional steps as far as transfer, okay? Say you need to do a blood culture collection and your patient doesn't have a line and you don't have any butterflies. That's when you're going to go to your syringe. The issue we run into with doing syringe collection for butterflies is we don't get the correct syringe for the amount that we need. If you get an adult set, you need at least 5 mils in each of these bottles. But please don't forget, you still have to give me at least 1 mil in the discard. So what you will do is you can use a 12 mil syringe, or you can use a 20. If you have anything in between the 12 and the 20, you can use that too. Okay, so say you're pulling with your 12 mil syringe and you get all 12 mils. Okay, and then you get ready to go and do your transfer. So you've put a mil in your discard tube, and then you're going to put this on here and let it fill. And say you need to get something or throw something away, and you turn your back and then you turn back again and this is empty. You're like, well, I know I had enough for both, but I missed it. That's okay. Send me this green top. I will accept it. We will get it started, but we're also going to tell you, hey, I need an orange to go with that green. If you collected this from the right AC, go back and collect this one from the right AC. This is still considered a set. So you are not doing a second blood culture collection, you are finishing your set, okay? And you will follow the same aseptic techniques when you collect your orange one. Make sure you get your discard tube and follow the same steps, label it and send it down. If your patient is a hard stick, please do not even worry about trying to get an adult set. You wanna go PD set, okay? With this one, you can use a 5 mil syringe and pull 5 mils, put 1 mil in the discard tube, put the other 4 in your PD and send it down. And that's acceptable as well, okay? These other 2 tubes, these are also both cultures. This is AFB. This one is for a fungal culture. Your doctor will specifically order these if they want them. These tubes are kept in the laboratory, so you will have to come get them and you will have to bring them back. It is recommended that you walk them down because they are glass and we don't want these to break inside of the tube system. You will treat these the exact same way that you would collecting any other cultures. You have your discard tube first and then you fill your blood culture tubes. Again, it doesn't matter that these are a different look, you treat them the same. Okay, I also want to add on, there is other information going around where nurses are no longer allowed to collect from lines without orders. Please adhere to this. If you have an order for a peripheral stick and you're on a floor where you collect your own, you will be collecting your peripheral stick. If you have another order for a blood culture set from a line, make sure that it indicates that it is from a line and you will pull it from the line. If you're on a floor that we collect as phlebotomists, we'll come get your peripheral stick, but we're gonna come to you for the one that's a line and we'll give you the tubes and everything to collect, but you will need to pull from the line. But the order will specify that it needs to come from a line. I have also seen instances where maybe the doctor forgot to say one of these needs to come from a line. To protect yourself with the new rules that are going around, please get with your doctor and have them reorder it as coming from a line. Okay, that way you're covered if the doctor forgets or goes back and says, well, I ordered 2 peripherals, but one of these is from a line. Now you know why it's from the line, because he originally wanted it that way. So just to cover yourself, make sure your order matches what you're doing. Please do not make the decision yourself. Please go see your doctors. Okay. Lastly, I'm going to touch on labeling. When you are labeling your tubes, please make sure that your label matches this one. This is a chart label. This also rings true for your rover labels. The main goal is to get the MRN and the patient's name towards the top of the tube. That way your barcode is in line where it needs to be. If you have a rover label and you flip it and you put the name and the MRN at the bottom, your barcode is too far down. If you notice during morning run or during certain times where you know you've collected your stuff and sent it down and you may not have results yet, it could be because your barcode was in the wrong place and it got put into a check drawer because it didn't read. Well, if it's during morning run, we're doing labs for the entire hospital. That could cause a delay for your patient getting their results. So please, please, please make sure you are labeling properly. We don't need to see the manufacturer's information. We check our expiration dates. You guys check your expiration dates on your units. So please, please, please cover that up. That way we have our window to do what we have to do in the laboratory, and make sure that your barcode is in the correct place. If you have PD tubes on your unit, it is okay to label them the exact same. The same way the name and the mRNA are at the top of this one, you'll do the same thing on your PD tube. You will have a tail. It's okay. Send the tail down with it. We'll take care of it once it gets to the lab. You don't have to worry about that portion, okay? Lastly, as far as labeling goes, we're going to talk about our culture bottles. The culture bottles actually have a spot designated for a label to go on it. Please use that spot. It's this open rectangle. Please do not cover up any of the barcodes. They all contain information that is specific to the instrument, and it will read the information once it's put on. Gives us the lot number, gives us the expiration date, gives us the type of tube that's being put on there. Also, please do not close or cover up the window. This gives us our fill volume. Most importantly, do not label around the bottom. Kind of where my fingers are listed here, please don't label there. If you do, there's a very good chance that once the analyzer shoots the light back behind these little discs and reads it, it's looking for a color change. If you have a label here, there's a chance a shadow could go cast over the bottom of it, and it's going to pick it up as a positive. We will take this out and run this false positive until the end of the resulting, which is usually 3 days. This could prolong your patient's stay. Say your patient's about to be discharged, you put the label in the wrong spot, it got ran, false positive, your patient ended up staying an additional 3 days. Okay, so please be sure to label correctly only in the area designated for labels on blood culture bottles. Again, if you guys have any questions, I am accessible Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. My extension is 4242, and my number is, my email is amandarusso@christushealth.org. And then lastly, if you are needing any type of information whatsoever, whether it be cheat sheets or anything like that, please contact me. We also have these cool little wristbands that you can use. It has the order of draw on them. I will be getting more in this week and next week. I will also have badge buddies that are going to come in with them, and pocket guides for you to have the order of draw, how many times to invert the sample, and the additives listed, as well as the departments that these different ones go to. So if you want any of that information, please reach out to me as well.